So where are we exactly on a nuclear-armed Iran? Joining me now to answer that very question, political editor and White House correspondent at the Huffington Post, Sam Stein, and senior writer at the Daily Beast and professor at the City University of New York, Peter Beinart. Sam, I'll start with you first, the view from the White House on this. What did President Obama say to convince these Democrats? And we should actually show folks who we're talking about. Among the 16 Democrats who were backing the bill, Chuck Schumer, Mary Landrieu, Kirsten Gillibrand, Cory Booker, Joe Manchin, and Michael Bennet. What was the argument here?
Well, among the people who want to put off new sanctions, the argument is that you need to give this new process, a little bit of breathing room, and that if you were to pass new sanctions at this juncture, it would be interpreted as an act of bad faith among the United States. It would give Iran a PR advantage, so to speak, when it comes to this types of negotiation. And the other argument that's being made is that if, in fact, Iran backs out of the tenet of the deal, if they come away from the table, if they don't follow through on their obligations, there's nothing actually preventing Congress from acting in force of new sanctions then, that you don't have to do it now, that you can do it after the fact. And so those are the two key arguments made by the administration. But in the end, you know, this is sort of a show, because it all came down to whether or not Harry Reid would allow this bill to come to a vote. And even before last night, you were getting hints from the leader's office that that was never going to happen. And so we're wondering what was going to take place, but in fact, it's probably just a show, and they still don't have a veto-proof majority, which the president has promised to do if the thing were to, in fact, pass Congress.
Peter, you have written in no uncertain terms about your distaste for this bill and what it would do to an agreement that has been very hard to come by. Jeffrey Goldberg would seem to agree with you. He said it as does the unfortunate thing of making Iran look good and look like a victim of American intransigence. So what was the propeller here? Why were these Democrats even standing in the way? I mean, Sam has presented the quote, the reasoning here. You can still enact sanctions if it falls apart. Was it AIPAC? Where was the motivation here?
Look, I think that there are a network of pro-Israel organizations that have been pushing for sanctions almost irrespective of the circumstances for many years now. And there's no secret cabal about this. This is being done very openly. They have every right to do that. But I think if you look at the merits of the case for this sanctions bill now is very weak. And I wrote a piece this week in Haaretz. You know, the Israeli newspaper, the interim agreement says there can be no new sanctions during the course of this interim agreement. Now, they say we get around this because there's a waiver. But if you look at what it would take for Barack Obama to invoke that waiver, it would be virtually impossible for him to invoke that waiver because the standards are so unrealistic. And so it really is, whether the sponsors of this bill know it or not, it is an absolute poison pill for any chance of a diplomatic deal.
And you suggested in your piece that it's such a badly written bill that there's no way that everybody could actually have read it.
Absolutely, and almost all the people I've talked to on Hill about this think that many of the senators have not read it. For instance, it makes conditions which have to do with Iran's missile program and support for terrorism bad things, but which have nothing to do with the nuclear deal, and were never expected to be part of the nuclear deal. It also demands that there be zero enrichment of uranium, which the Obama administration has already said they're willing to allow within certain circumstances. It's a completely unrealistic set of expectations.
Sam, the fact that this may not go forward, that the deal may have a chance to, we may have a chance at working out this deal from the foreign policy context. I mean, this may be a massive victory for the Obama White House in terms of foreign policy. He has not gotten a lot of credit for that which he has done thus far on the foreign policy front. In fact, he's suffered many arrows for foreign policy in the Middle East. How much do you think that this is a game changer for the administration?
Well, we have miles and miles to go before we can determine that. Even the president himself has said there's a 50-50 proposition that these negotiations work. From the Congress's perspective, the reason to push this deal, at least as they tell it, is that it provides an insurance blanket, an insurance policy, should the agreement with the Iranians not work out. You have that in the back pocket. And secondarily, you can make the case that there's a good cop, bad cop thing going on here, in which the administration is extending an olive branch and Congress has the cudgel waiting for them. The problem that I've encountered, and maybe Peter knows the answer to this, is that under this deal, it's very difficult to say, or who would determine whether or not Iran has violated the agreement, in which case sanctions would be approved. I still haven't figured out what would it take to have new sanctions be imposed under this arrangement. And so there's a lot of vagaries here. There's a lot of gray areas here that come with this sanctions bill that could muck up what is a historic achievement.
Peter, I'll give you a chance to respond to that.
Right. It's not at all clear that the administration would have the authority under this bill to stop the sanctions from going into place. And the expectations for what would be required for a final deal are complete and abject Iranian capitulation, even on issues that are not even considered to be part of the negotiations at all. The good cop, bad cop thing only works if the bad cop strengthens the good cop.
Right.
If the bad cop basically makes the good cop be completely
Then it's just bad cop.
Then it's all bad cop or no cop or whatever. I'm losing control of the metaphor.
Lawlessness.
There's too many cops.
Too many cops.
Right.
That's what it is.
That's right.
Unfortunately, we have to leave it there. The Atlantic's Peter Beiner and the Huffington Post Sam Stein, thank you both for joining me
Thanks,
today.
Alex.
Thanks a lot.